Every time we've run this since, clients have got a real FOMO from putting people off. But that's the entire point. You want to put the wrong people off.
This is the B2B Performance Marketing Podcast by Webmarketer, here to help you make the right moves with your B2B advertising. No spin, no smoke and mirrors, just honest insights from the advertising front line.
So today's episode is all about lead ads and how to make them work. Now, to kick this off, Lou, I remember a post from a year ago that rubbed you up the wrong way. It was by Chris Walker, and I've got the key points in front of me here. It was about Metadata's B2B advertising benchmark report. And here are the details. So there was $37 million of ad spend on lead ads. 236,000 air quote leads collected. Download was the most popular call to action, showing that B2B companies were using paid social to drive gated PDF downloads. The average cost was $126 to maybe get someone to open the PDF. He estimated the lead to win ratio to be about 0.3%. So that meant 333 leads to close one deal, which he noted as terribly inefficient. And from that 37 million in ad spend, he estimated that there was 22 million in revenue from that. With him wrapping it up to say, finally, there's enough evidence that all B2B companies should stop their advertising for lead ad campaigns on Facebook and LinkedIn. So I remember you had a bit of a bee in your bonnet over this for a while. So do you want to talk through your thoughts here, if you remember them, Lou?
Yeah, absolutely. So I meant to share my thoughts on this at the time, but I ended up completely missing the boat. So here we are a year later covering this topic. And I know Chris Walker has moved on from B2B demand gen now and he's doing something different. But to be honest, I was pretty late to the party in discovering his stuff too. I started seeing his content on LinkedIn and I remember thinking, whoa, this guy's a threat to the performance marketing industry. And if people believe what he's saying, then that's pretty dangerous. And then I actually started listening to his podcasts and realized that while his social content was quite controversial and polarizing, his podcast material was extremely well contextualized. And I realized it wasn't really about demand gen versus performance marketing at all. It was much more about marketing working closer with sales and getting better results. And so I totally understood why he's kind of revered as one of the great modern minds of B2B marketing, and it's totally deserved. But on this specific point, that businesses should stop running lead ads altogether, I have to disagree. Because I'm 100% confident that the vast majority of that ad spend on lead ads had little to no serious planning, research, or depth behind it.
Yeah, I'm convinced that a lot of businesses run lead ads just because they're so easy to set up. The perceived value from it is really high because you can set up a lead ad campaign in less than an hour, and it'll feel like you're getting leads from it, even from a basic approach. And this follows on from our episode about lead quality, because from this setup, those leads are probably going to be a bit crap, as in probably just contact details with zero intent. We all know that leads aren't created equally. People looking for top-level information aren't looking to buy. Unless that information is something like a knowledge gap that's a barrier to them making a purchase.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm now a proud driver of a VW ID Buzz. And luckily, I knew a decent amount about EVs because we'd worked with electrifying.com before as a client, but I still hadn't experienced firsthand what it was like to be in the market for one. A dealer could have definitely got my attention with like a buyer's guide for newbies because there's so much to get your head around. And it would have saved me loads of time researching by just focusing on a few specifics, you know? And even better again, if that buyer's guide dovetailed with the dealer's language and sales process. I also just want to clarify that I'm talking about a how to buy your first EV guide rather than something like everything you need to know about buying an EV. And now they might sound very similar, but the difference between them is really, really big. And understanding that difference is the key to making lead ads work. There's no point in giving top of the funnel information in exchange for an email address, like none. However, if someone is in the actual buying process, like towards the end game, and your content makes it faster, easier, or more pain-free, then that's a completely different story. And that's where I think Chris's conclusion misses the point a bit. It's not that lead ads don't work, it's that most of them have zero commercial intent behind them.
I mean, I do get it though. There's almost this dopamine hit that lead ads gives you. You launch them and almost immediately your cost per lead starts dropping. And it almost turns into this game of how low can we get the cost of those leads until someone starts asking questions about the quality of those leads. And then everything starts to unravel. And if you haven't already been stung by that before, then you don't automatically monitor and optimize your lead quality from the start. So when I see $37 million spent on lead ad campaigns, I don't see bad marketers. I see marketers that have been led astray by platforms chasing easy, low-cost leads. Because the platform counts form fills as a lead, even when most of them won't turn into a conversation. Because if the intent behind your lead ad is close to zero, then no amount of nurturing or follow-up will turn that into pipeline. And a really important point to make here is that there is actually a transaction going on with a lead ad. It's just that people are parting with their data instead of their money. Nobody wants more spam clogging up their inbox. So the value of what people are willing to give up their contact details for just keeps increasing. This is one part of it. The other part is ease and speed. Like out of the box with the default settings on, someone can see a lead ad, click a button and exchange their details with little to no friction, which means they're way more likely to do it. But that does cause a couple of issues. So very quickly, people are going to forget that they gave you their details. Or on the flip side, they're not going to realize they gave them in the first place. And then you're going to get the contact details for lots of people that just aren't a fit.
So effectively, to get more sales-ready leads, you have to make sure that what people are giving their contact details in exchange for is A, more valuable, and B, as far down the buying process as possible. You can make the buying process easier, handle objections, or remove a barrier to purchase, like answering a question that's stopping them from buying. And then going back to what you were saying there, Maelien, let's talk about what we can do to stop people from forgetting or not realizing that they gave their details. We do this by adding a bit of extra friction, which is something we covered in our episode about lead quality. At WebMarketer, if we find that people don't remember giving their details, we'll actually make the form a bit harder to submit. And I'd say we end up doing this for most of the lead ad campaigns that we run. So to do this, we actually remove the out-of-the-box email field because this gets populated automatically and makes it way too easy to submit. And then we replace it with a custom field that we call something like work email. That way, A, people physically have to type their details in. They're doing it intentionally, so they're definitely going to realize that they're doing it. And then B, you actually get more branded work emails by doing this. The vast majority of people sign up to social media, including LinkedIn, with their personal email. And that's what gets auto-populated with the default settings.
Let's run through what you can do if you're getting the wrong kind of people from your lead ads. This is something that we thought up as a solution for one of our clients. We call it self-selection. So we were working with an agricultural machinery manufacturer looking to speak to farmers, and we started running lead ads for them, and the lead volume was great. But the issue that we heard back from the client was that most of them weren't farmers. Like we usually do when there's a fundamental problem with a client's campaign, we booked an internal call to get as many heads as possible together. Now, we could have added a classic qualification question like, are you a farmer? Yes or no? But we all agreed it smelt a bit too much like sales, and it might have put people off. Instead, we went for something more subtle and went for a question along the lines of, what kind of farmer are you? And then added a drop down with pigs, sheep, or cows as the options. And that did the trick. It actually worked better than expected because every single lead was then a farmer. And surprisingly, the cost per lead was actually lower than before. Our working theory here is that it was because it was more personalized. Now, if you use this approach, and I really recommend that you do, it's really important that you don't include other in the drop down, no matter how tempting it is. Every time we've run this since, clients have got a real FOMO from putting people off. But that's the entire point. You want to put the wrong people off.
So as always, let's do a bit of a recap. Having someone's contact information doesn't automatically make them a lead. So what they get in exchange for their details, which doesn't have to be a PDF, has to align with the next step being a sales conversation or at least starting the purchase journey. As marketers, over the years, we've been obsessed with making it as easy as possible to convert. But I think we've been blindsided by what happens when we make it too easy. So to make sure that people realize that they're submitting your lead form, you can replace the default one that gets auto-populated with a custom one that gets manually typed in. And finally, before running lead ads, you should be really focused on who you want to engage. And you can filter out the wrong people with a subtle self-selection question. Also, just a cheeky little value add for you. LinkedIn have just brought out an integration with Calendly for their lead ads, so people can book a call with you straight after converting. But remember, they're not going to do that if you haven't positioned your lead magnet around some kind of purchase intent.
The key thing here is that the best lead ads don't feel like marketing and sales, they feel like help. And that's what makes the difference when it comes to pipeline. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you've been struggling with lead ads, hopefully this gives you some good things to try out. And if they work, we'd love it if you recommended us to someone else where this could help them. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.